It was a cold October night when something happened inside a large metropolitan hospital that no one on the medical staff would ever forget. A moment that began quietly, but would soon leave even the most experienced doctors questioning everything they thought they knew. The story centered around an 8-year-old boy named Tyler Johnson. Tyler had been fighting for his life. What had started as a simple flu 3 weeks earlier had suddenly turned into something far more dangerous. The infection spread quickly, developing into severe bilateral pneumonia. His lungs were struggling, and no treatment seemed to help. For 21 days, Tyler had remained in the pediatric ward while doctors tried everything they knew. The strongest antibiotics available, advanced respiratory therapies, specialized treatments used only in the most serious cases. But nothing worked. The inflammation in Tyler's lungs refused to respond. His parents, Sarah and Michael Johnson, had barely left the hospital since the day he was admitted. They slept in chairs, ate from vending machines, and prayed constantly that their little boy would recover. Dr. James Patterson had been a pediatrician for 22 years. In all that time, he had rarely seen a case like Tyler's. One Tuesday morning, he sat across from Tyler's parents in a small consultation room. His expression was serious. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson," he began carefully, "I need to be honest with you." Sarah tightened her grip on Michael's hand. Her voice trembled. "Doctor, what does that mean?" Dr. Patterson took a slow breath. "We're running out of treatment options. Tyler's condition isn't improving the way we expected." The room fell silent. Michael lowered his head. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Dr. Patterson answered with professional calm, though the weight of his words was heavy. "We may need to transfer Tyler to the pediatric intensive care unit. If his lungs don't improve in the next 48 hours, we may have to consider mechanical ventilation." The words felt like a storm crashing into the room. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Michael stared at the floor. "Doctor," he said after a moment, "how much time do we have to decide?" "We'll monitor him closely over the next 2 days," Dr. Patterson replied. "If we don't see improvement, we'll have to act." That night, Sarah decided she would stay beside Tyler no matter what. She settled into the small armchair next to his bed. The room was quiet. Only the soft sound of medical monitors filled the air. Outside the window, the hospital hallway lights cast a dim glow across the room. Around 2 in the morning, Tyler suddenly stirred. His eyes slowly opened. "Mom," he whispered weakly. Sarah leaned forward immediately. "I'm here, sweetheart. What is it?" But Tyler didn't answer right away. His eyes were fixed on the far corner of the room, near the window. Sarah followed his gaze. There was nothing there, just the curtain and the faint light from the hallway. "Mom," Tyler said softly, "there's a lady over there." Sarah forced a gentle smile. She didn't want him to feel afraid. "Tyler, there's no one there, honey. Maybe you're dreaming." But Tyler shook his head slowly. "No, she's here." His voice carried a strange calmness. "She's wearing blue, like a princess." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. She stood up and walked to the window. Pulling the curtain aside, she showed him the empty space. "See? There's no one here." But Tyler never moved his eyes from that corner. "She smiled at me, Mom," he whispered softly. Sarah didn't know what to think. Unsure whether it was the medication or the fever, she pressed the call button for the night nurse. A few minutes later, Nurse Rebecca entered the room. Rebecca had worked in pediatric care for nearly 15 years. She checked Tyler's monitors carefully, and then she paused. "That's strange," she said quietly. Sarah looked at her anxiously. "What is it?" Rebecca glanced again at the readings. "His vital signs, they're better than they've been in days." Sarah blinked in surprise. Rebecca tried to reassure her gently. Sometimes children who are very weak can have unusual experiences. But the important thing is that he seems calm. For the first time in weeks, Tyler closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. No coughing, no restlessness, just peaceful breathing. The next morning, Dr. Patterson noticed the difference immediately. Tyler looked more alert. His breathing was still fragile, but lighter. "Tyler," the doctor said kindly, "how did you sleep?" The boy smiled faintly. "Very well. The lady in blue took care of me." Dr. Patterson exchanged a glance with Sarah. She explained everything that had happened during the night. "Doctor," she said nervously, "could the medication be causing these visions?" Dr. Patterson nodded thoughtfully. "It's possible. Some medications can cause hallucinations. But the important thing is that Tyler's condition seems to be improving." That afternoon, the lab results arrived. For the first time in 3 weeks, there was progress. Tyler's white blood cell count had dropped. His body was finally beginning to fight the infection. "This is encouraging," Dr. Patterson told the medical team. "Maybe we're finally seeing the recovery we've been waiting for." But that night, something happened again. At exactly 2 in the morning, Tyler opened his eyes. Sarah, exhausted but still awake, noticed him looking toward the same corner near the window. "She's back, Mom," he whispered with a small smile. This time Sarah didn't argue. She simply watched her son. Tyler looked peaceful, almost comforted. "Tyler," she asked softly, "what do you see?" "The lady in blue," he replied quietly. "She's taking care of me." As Sarah listened to him speak, something unusual happened. A faint fragrance filled the room. Soft, sweet, like fresh roses. Sarah looked around. There were no flowers in the room, yet the scent remained. At that same moment she noticed something else. Tyler's breathing had become calmer, lighter than it had been in weeks. The next morning the improvement was undeniable. Dr. Patterson reviewed the charts again and again. "I've never seen such a rapid recovery," he admitted. Later that day, Nurse Rebecca asked to speak with him privately. They stepped into a quiet hallway. "Doctor," Rebecca said carefully, "Tyler isn't the first child who has said something like this." Dr. Patterson looked surprised. "What do you mean?" "In 15 years working here, I've heard at least 6 children describe the same thing. The same figure. A woman dressed in blue. And every time, it happened during the moment their condition suddenly improved." Dr. Patterson frowned thoughtfully. "Do you have any idea what could explain that?" Rebecca didn't answer right away. Instead, she led him to a large window at the end of the corridor. Below them was a small hospital garden. Flowers, trees, a quiet stone path. In the center stood a small statue. "Do you see that?" Rebecca asked. Dr. Patterson nodded. "A statue of the Virgin Mary. It was placed there when the hospital was built 42 years ago," Rebecca explained. "The founder believed she would protect the children treated here." Dr. Patterson stared down at the garden. "Every child who described the lady in blue was in a room facing that courtyard," Rebecca continued. She pointed upward. "And Tyler's room is directly above it." Dr. Patterson said nothing. He simply watched the small statue below, processing the information. 3 nights after Tyler first spoke about the mysterious visitor, Sarah was awakened again by his voice. "Mom, look. She's here again." Sarah opened her eyes. Tyler was sitting upright, smiling peacefully toward the foot of the bed. "She's right here," he whispered. Then he took a deep breath. "She says I'll be okay." A moment later he relaxed and quietly added, "She's gone now, but I feel better." The next morning the test results stunned everyone. Tyler's lungs had improved dramatically. The inflammation had nearly disappeared. It was as if weeks of recovery had happened overnight. Dr. Patterson shook his head in disbelief. "Sarah, I honestly don't know how to explain this. Sometimes medicine has answers, and sometimes it doesn't." That afternoon, Nurse Rebecca invited the Johnson family to visit the small hospital garden before Tyler was discharged. "There's something I think Tyler would like to see," she said gently. They walked down the quiet path. In the center of the garden stood a statue about 60 centimeters tall, a figure of the Virgin Mary, dressed in flowing blue robes, her hands open in a gesture of protection. Tyler stopped walking. His eyes widened, and he whispered softly, "Mom, that's her. That's the lady in blue who came to my room." Sarah felt a wave of emotion rise through her chest. For a moment she couldn't speak. Something deep inside her understood what had just happened. Michael stood beside her, silent, watching their son. His eyes were filled with the same realization. At the base of the statue, a small bronze plaque was fixed to the stone. Sarah stepped closer and read it quietly. "Our Lady, donation of Dr. William Carter, 1982. She looked again at the statue. 42 years, she murmured softly. "How many other children has she protected?" Tyler slowly walked forward. His movements were gentle, almost instinctive. Standing in front of the statue, he brought his small hands together in prayer. Then he whispered softly, "Thank you for taking care of me." At that exact moment, something unexpected happened. A light breeze stirred the flowers surrounding the statue. The petals moved gently, swaying back and forth. Yet strangely, the rest of the garden remained completely still. There was no wind anywhere else. Sarah looked around in silence. Michael noticed it too. Neither of them said a word, but both of them felt it. Something peaceful, something unexplainable. Meanwhile, Dr. Patterson had not forgotten his conversation with Rebecca. The idea that Tyler might not be the first child to describe the mysterious lady in blue stayed in his mind. A few days later, curiosity led him to do something unusual. He began quietly reviewing old medical records. At first, he wasn't sure what he would find, but the deeper he looked, the more surprising the pattern became. Over the past 15 years, there had been 7 documented cases of critically ill children who experienced sudden, extraordinary recoveries. Children whose conditions had been considered extremely serious. Children who, according to medical expectations, should have taken weeks or even months to recover. Yet in each case, their improvement came almost overnight. Dr. Patterson carefully compared the details of each file: room numbers, dates, treatment plans, clinical reports, and then something caught his attention. All 7 children had been hospitalized in the same group of rooms. Rooms that faced the hospital's small indoor garden. The same garden, where the statue of the Virgin Mary stood quietly among the flowers. Dr. Patterson leaned back in his chair. As a physician, he had spent his life searching for scientific explanations, evidence, data, logic. But this was something he could not easily categorize. There was no clinical explanation for the pattern. Yet the data was there, clear, consistent, always the same circumstances, always critically ill children, always an unexpected recovery, always the same view, toward the small statue in the garden. News of Tyler's recovery soon began to spread through the community. Families spoke about it quietly at first, then more openly. Soon the story reached the local parish. One afternoon, the parish priest, Father Rodriguez, came to visit the hospital. He spoke with the Johnson family in the garden. Our Lady often appears in places of suffering, the priest explained gently, especially where children are in need. Sarah listened carefully. Father, how should we understand what happened? Father Rodriguez smiled softly. Sometimes miracles are not meant to be fully explained. They are meant to remind us that even in our darkest moments, we are never alone. Michael lowered his head thoughtfully. Tyler simply looked again at the statue, peacefully, as if he already understood. With permission from the hospital administration, Father Rodriguez later organized a small blessing ceremony in the garden. It was simple, quiet, but meaningful. A few hospital staff members attended. Several families with sick children came as well. Together they prayed for healing, for strength, and for hope. In the weeks that followed, something beautiful began to happen. The small garden slowly became a place of quiet refuge. Families started visiting discreetly. Some came early in the morning, others late at night. Many brought small flowers. Others simply stood there in silence, praying, hoping, finding comfort. At first, the hospital administration had been hesitant. They worried the growing attention might cause disruption. But something unexpected occurred. The garden brought peace to families. It helped them cope during the most difficult moments of their lives. And so the hospital decided to allow it. Quietly, respectfully, Tyler returned home completely healed. His recovery became one of the most remarkable cases Dr. Patterson had ever seen. For the first time in his career, the doctor began paying attention to something medicine could not measure: faith, hope, the unseen strength that sometimes helped patients heal. Rebecca, too, saw her work differently after Tyler's experience. She continued caring for children with the same professionalism as always. But now she also listened more carefully, especially when young patients spoke about things adults could not easily explain. Among the hospital staff, the garden slowly gained a nickname. Some called it quietly the Garden of Miracles. Nurses sometimes mentioned it gently to families going through particularly difficult moments. Not as a promise, not as a certainty, but as a place of comfort. A place where many people had found peace. 2 months after Tyler was discharged, another child was admitted to the same ward. Another severe case. Another family facing fear and uncertainty. And this child was placed in a room, facing the garden. What happened next would make even more people begin to wonder whether someone truly was watching over the children there. Not long after Tyler left the hospital, something happened again. Another child was admitted to the pediatric ward. Her name was Emma. She was only 6 years old. Her illness was serious, and like Tyler's case, the doctors feared the recovery might be long and uncertain. Emma was placed in a room on the same floor, a room with a window overlooking the hospital garden, the very same room Tyler had occupied just 2 months earlier. At first, everything seemed ordinary. Doctors monitored her condition carefully. Treatments were administered. Her progress was slow. But then, something familiar began to occur. One night, Emma woke up and quietly told the nurse on duty that she had seen a beautiful lady dressed in blue standing near the window. The description was simple. A gentle woman, kind eyes, blue garments, a presence that made her feel calm and safe. Rebecca, who was working that shift, felt a strange sense of déjà vu. Emma had never met Tyler. She had never heard his story, yet the description was exactly the same. Over the next few nights, Emma spoke again about the same visitor. She said the lady came quietly during the night. She never frightened her. She simply stayed close, watching over her. And just like Tyler, Emma began to improve. At first, the change was subtle. Her breathing became easier. Her strength slowly returned. Then suddenly, her recovery accelerated. Tests began to show rapid improvement. Inflammation decreased. Vital signs stabilized. The doctors noticed the change immediately. Dr. Patterson carefully documented every detail of Emma's case. The timeline, the medical results, the unusual pattern of recovery. 2 children, 2 severe illnesses, 2 recoveries that exceeded medical expectations. And both had described the same mysterious visitor. For the first time, Dr. Patterson began to consider something he had never seriously explored before. That healing might involve more than medicine alone. Something emotional, something spiritual, something science could not yet fully explain. One afternoon, Rebecca shared her thoughts with him quietly. Children sometimes see the world differently than we do, she said. They still have a kind of openness we adults often lose. Dr. Patterson listened thoughtfully. Perhaps, Rebecca continued, they are more receptive to forms of healing we don't yet understand. Dr. Patterson didn't answer immediately, but he didn't dismiss the idea either. Meanwhile, the Johnson family continued visiting the hospital garden. Not because Tyler needed treatment anymore, but because they wanted to say thank you. Every time they returned, they brought fresh flowers. Tyler himself insisted on placing them at the base of the statue. The memory of the lady in blue remained vivid in his mind. At home, he often drew pictures of her. In every drawing, she appeared the same way. A gentle woman in flowing blue garments. Her hands open, protective, watching over children. His parents kept those drawings carefully. To them, they were more than simple sketches. They were reminders of a moment when hope returned. Word of the garden slowly spread across the region. Families facing difficult situations began hearing about it. Some came quietly. Others came after hearing about Tyler or Emma. They didn't come expecting miracles. They came searching for peace. The hospital administration noticed the growing number of visitors. Rather than discouraging it, they decided to maintain the garden carefully. The flowers were trimmed. The stone path was repaired. The statue was cleaned and restored so it could be seen more clearly. New hospital staff were also told about the garden, not as a place of superstition, but as a place of comfort. A place where families could breathe, pray, and gather strength. The statue remained there, silent and unchanged. Day after day, night after night, watching over the hospital, witnessing the quiet prayers of parents and children, standing among the flowers like a guardian. And so another story joined the long history of moments people struggle to explain. Moments where medicine and mystery seemed to meet. Moments that challenged logic, yet filled hearts with hope. For many who passed through that hospital, the garden became more than a courtyard. It became a reminder that even in places of suffering, something beautiful can still appear. And that sometimes, healing arrives in ways we never expect. The hospital itself was never quite the same again, because in that small garden, something had taken root. Not only flowers, but hope, and the quiet certainty that a mother's love still watches over her children. Now I invite you to take a moment with me. Let us pray together with faith and trust, entrusting our lives and our families to the care of the Virgin Mary. Sweet Virgin Mary, Mother of love and hope, today we place our lives at your feet. You see our worries. You know our struggles. You understand the pain hidden in our hearts. Just as you stretched out your hands over little Tyler in that hospital, stretch them now over each one of us. Cover us with your protective mantle. Protect our children. Comfort those who are sick. Strengthen those who feel weak. And bring peace to every troubled heart. Most Holy Mother, never allow us to lose our faith. Always guide us closer to your Son, Jesus. and may our lives also become a testimony of your love. Amen.